What's up, fam? So recently, a few days ago, Texas opened up the school voucher program, which allows parents to choose where their kids can go to school, especially if they feel that that school that their child is going to is not up to par. Now, we can talk about reasons why that isn't happening, but what we're going to do is we're going to watch this news clip about the school voucher program down here in Texas. I'm gonna give my take, and as always, I want you to give your take in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. When you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Let's hit it.
School choice is taking off in Texas. A new program will disperse nearly $1 billion to help families pay for private school or homeschooling in the state. The response from parents has been record-breaking. Over 40,000 applications came in on day one of the launch. Taylor, I'm going to come to you first on this because you're in the school mode.
Yeah.
And I think, unless I really misunderstand the context here, that's huge demand in Texas.
42,000 it may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but you have to think about these school districts nowadays. They cannot afford to lose any more students. I saw an article or a news story where Houston is about to close like 12 schools because there aren't enough students. It could be because they say not a lot of kids are being born. The birth rate is down in America by a lot. And also a lot of children are choosing parents are choosing for the children to receive other forms of education, whether it be homeschooling, charter school, private school, or just moving out of the city altogether. I know here in like Waxahachie, they had one high school. When I first moved out here, we had one small little high school right off the main road downtown. Big boom in people moving in, houses being built, apartments being built. Big boom of people moving into this city. Then they built a larger high school like right off the highway, which makes no sense to me because why would you put a high school next to a freaking highway? I don't understand that. But then the day that it opened up, it was like almost filled to capacity to where they already knew they needed to build another school. And we're talking within the last 5 years, maybe. Like when they built the school, they already knew they needed to build another school. So now they're building another school. And that school probably ain't even been open that long. But anyway, right now they're building another school uh, down the road, a second high school, because it's growing. So, but again, you got a lot of people moving to this area right now. So, like I say, a lot of these districts and these schools cannot afford to lose any more children because when you don't have enough children and you're closing schools, now your funding is going down, and it's just a whole snowball effect.
For this,
the photos were lines around the corner.
Yeah. So, what does that demand tell you, or what are the implications, do you think, of that kind of demand?
So I love it because it shows that in pockets where in many times, just the first time experimenting about school choice, it is working. And it shows that parents are desperate to have control over where their child goes to school. And that if there is success in the Lone Star State, and Brian, you've been a champion of school choice well before me, so I don't want to step on your toes. But if there is success in these pockets, maybe that eventually leads to this nationwide spread, which is parents like me would be desperate for that to actually come to fruition. I want to also talk about, and look, I understand New York City is a bubble. It's disgusting. The private schools here are absurd. It costs more than many Americans make in a year. But I just want to talk about that, Brian, as a microcosm of what I think is going on. There was an incredible article out yesterday showing that many of the private schools are topping $70,000 a year in tuition for private schools in New York City. What that tells me, yes, there's demand and they can charge this, but they can because parents like me don't trust the public schools because I don't.
Let me cut her off right quick because I want y'all to see the prices of these schools and how much they cost. I've told y'all that one of my daughters went to a private school her last 2 years of high school. And it was, I want to say, was it 20,000? I can't recall because it was years ago. I don't know if it was 20,000 a semester or 20,000 a year. I can't recall, but hell, it was high as hell, right? And the only reason why she was able to go there was one. Well, shoot, let me see. I said the only reason, three reasons how she was able to be able to go there and to afford to go there. One, she had a hell of a grades. That's number one. Two, well, let's flip that. The number one reason why they even wanted her to go there in the first place was because of her softball skills. That's number one. So that was the big jump, the big boost. Number two was her grades were on par. They were great. They was up there. And then three, I was making $12 an hour trying to get through nursing school and get my nursing license at the time. So they ended up finding, what they say, somehow 90% of her tuition was paid. That's when I learned what real money is and what we think is money, as I'm talking about the majority of the black people, what we think is money and then what is real money. Because she applied for this school late. And somehow, that means all the scholarships and grants or whatever else they had was supposed to have been gone, already used up. But somehow they found the money, because I didn't think that she was going to be able to get in anyway. They found the money to pay for 90% of her tuition. So I said, okay, so I paid the rest, but still 90%. I was like, what the hell? Like I say, that's where money was. These people had raffles where they was giving away a brand new Mercedes Benz as a raffle. You understand what I'm saying? So they, like I say, real money. Not people out here thinking they wearing these high dollar jeans and going to these public schools and your mama making a few $100,000 a year. No, they actually raised, like, I want to say millions in in these raffle and donations and stuff like that. So it wasn't nothing to play with. This is a real true private school in Dallas. And there was like 2 or 3 of them up in that area. But anyway, yeah. So my point is, this right here, these prices show you that this ain't for us. This school choice, this school voucher program, it ain't got nothing to do with regular black folk, because there's no way in hell. Now, this is New York, but I'm telling you, about 6, 7, 8 years ago. No, it had been longer than that. So we can say about 10 years ago, that in Texas, like I say, Dallas area was like 20,000 something. So I don't know, it might be good 30, 40,000 by now, but either way, this is not for poor black folk, because they only giving out like $10,000. So where you gonna come with the rest of the money? Now, unless your child can play a sport, excel in the sport, dominating the sport, and then these private schools want to look good and get their name out there, so they want to recruit more people, bring in more revenue somehow, and they want your child to join the team. Now, if they can do that, then your tuition could probably be paid. And they got, like I said, they got scholarships and grants for some people, because they do have to let in, I think, a certain amount of low-income people, I believe. So that could help. But for the vast majority of us, you can forget about this.
Have school choice because I don't have other options. And so we are desperate to find any private school that is maybe not teaching all the woke stuff. Now, Dagan, you and I can argue that half of these schools are teaching all the woke stuff.
They are.
I'm actually a huge fan of Catholic schools, Brian, and you and I have talked about that. But this demand and the tuition they're able to command, I think for me, is also speaking to parents feel like within a public school system.
Group M7 is a website design and development firm located in Tyler, Texas.
No matter where you are in your digital journey,
We have no other choice.
Right. Now, the Texas cost of living is different, Dagan, but the students in that program are going to get $10,500 for private school tuition, or they'll get $2,000 if they homeschool. Now, I kind of wish they got a little more if they homeschool. That's my own little axe to grind. But so $10,500 means you can't have prices like you have in New York, which you probably won't in Texas. But what do you think about the economics of this program in a place like Texas and what difference it makes?
Can I just raise a question, though?
Yeah.
because I've heard this from friends of mine who are on school boards, who are very conservative individuals who live in very conservative areas. And their concern is, because they're on public school boards, is that you get a race to the bottom of the education in the public school system when you give financial incentives to families, and then the best and brightest leave. Mm-hmm. Then they take public money that is given to them and they go to a private school. The private school tuition goes up, and then what's left is kids in a public school who need the best education and can't get it because a lot of private schools will not admit people.
And that is going to continue that school to prison pipeline. They're trying to take it back to the old days. That's why you got to pay attention to politics and pay attention to what's going on around you. Don't just sit back and say how mean somebody, how bad, no orange man is bad or whatever. You got to watch this stuff because it affects your daily life. It's no different than really how it is now. It's just going to magnify. The people with the money, their kids going to go to these private schools. And then they're going to get $10,000 extra to send their kids to private schools. People who don't have the money, or people who don't have the kids who like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Deion Sanders or their sport, they're not going to be able to go to school. So they're going to be stuck in the education system that the funding is already limited, and then it's going to go down even more because there are not enough students in the schools. So then you're going to have teachers and well, not teachers, hopefully, but faculty, administrators going to lose their jobs because there's no one to teach. And what I was looking at, what I'm trying to find was the average tuition cost for like a private school in Texas. And real quick, it says statewide average for all private K through 12 schools about $14,000 per year, which is not bad. Average elementary school tuition is $13,246. Average high school is $14,494. Okay, so it ain't went up too bad. It say tuition ranges by grade and type. High school 9 through 12, roughly 12,000 to 30,000. So that 30,000, that makes sense. They say many elite schools charge at the high end or above. And like I said, when my daughter was going, like this about 10 years ago, it was like 20,000. You know what I'm saying? So I think I was paying like $200 a month, I believe, for her tuition or what have you. Let's see, major. So Houston's top private schools commonly charge over $30,000, and some elite schools over $35,000. Some of the lower schools, $5,000 to $10,000. But the thing about it is these schools, if they can see money coming in, they can start charging more. See what I'm saying? There's a game out there. It's always a money game.
Or will not admit kids who have serious particular learning disabilities. And so they're stuck in the private schools and can't take advantage of, they could homeschool.
But shouldn't that competition cause the public school to up its game? I mean, that's the whole concept of the school choice. In theory.
I'm just expressing something that has been said to me.
I've heard that. It's not totally absurd what they're saying, but it should mean public schools get better. And listen, here's the real problem.
Public schools not going to get better. If they ain't got better now, you're not going to force them to get better. All you can do, this is no different than any other business model. In nursing, our biggest thing in dialysis is we need patients in the seats, period. This is why we can sit here and joke, but yet, say the truth, there's a little bit of truth in everything you say. We can say that patient can die today. Their chair will be filled tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Probably be filled the moment we find out that a patient has passed away. We fill in seats. I mean, we got to. We can't mourn them. Can't put roses and no shrine on the seat with candles for a few days. No. Powers that be want that chair filled immediately. Even like on days when patients call in, they want us to call in patients from other shifts to come up to fill those seats. That's where the money is. You want them to fill the seats because, one, you got employees that are working that if your ratio is not right, you can't justify an extra employee there. So let's say like the first shift, we call it first shift. If we're low on patients and we're supposed, if we're usually, let's say we usually have like 6 people on staff, 6 staff members on the floor. This is just, I'm gonna give an example. With a certain amount of patients, let's say 6 staff members on the floor with 30 patients, right? So let's say 5 patients call in that morning. So the thing is, it's all now it looks like we have 1 staff member too many for the ratio. So technically, they supposed to be off the clock. But who's going to send somebody home and then say come back in a couple of hours? It's not going to happen. So then they got to stay there. So then what they want to do is call patients up to fill that seat, so that way it can justify that many people being there early in the morning. So then later in the day, when the census is low, now you can send people home, for the rest of the day, and they not, and they can cut people's hours like that. But like I said, that's just a business model. School is no different. Public schools, private schools, whatever, it's no different. If you don't have enough students, because students are, let's quote unquote, you can say, correlate them to the patients, and our staff members are our staff members on the floor, the same as teachers and school faculty. If you don't have enough patients on the floor, if you don't have enough students, you have to close schools or close dialysis clinics. You see what I'm saying? And send them patients somewhere else, and then everybody's in an uproar. But if you ain't making no money, they're not going to keep it open. I mean, it's just the bottom line.
I'm here. You have an education establishment, the United Federation of Teachers, which has a stranglehold on school districts in places like New York, in Chicago, in California, and they're squeezing the public school systems, and they're basically defining deviancy down. It's a horrible public school experience if you know anybody who went to these public schools, aside for a few in New York. I mean, Stuyvesant is obviously a very good public school in New York, but these are outliers, right? And the only way to really combat Randy Weingarten, I hate to say it, is to move out. And that's one of the reasons, aside from taxes, you have people moving out of New York, out of Illinois, out of California. The reason why their populations have remained somewhat stable is because they have an influx of immigrants, probably many of them illegal. But that's kind of where the school systems are going. So you literally have school systems in these places that first off, they have to be, they must have 15 translators because they of all.
Before we talk about that, I agree with him about moving out. When my oldest daughter was born, before she was born, I was living in Pleasant Grove. You understand? But then, like, mama got pregnant, and we moved around. No, we was in Dallas for a while, but then it was about time for her to start going to school. And shoot, I wasn't making no money. We weren't making enough money to pay for private schools back then. I was saying, well, if I'm gonna pay taxes, no matter what I'm making, I want to make sure she go to a decent school. Because at first I was like, it don't make sense me paying taxes or paying for private school, and I'm paying taxes for these schools. So we're gonna move, and we end up moving out of Dallas and moving to like a suburb or whatever for my kids to have, like I say, just for the education alone. Because if it wasn't for the kids, I would never move out to Grove. Well, I ain't gonna say never, but I had no reason to move out to that area at the time. So yeah, so what he's saying makes sense. The moving, if you want to get your kids to a proper school and you can't afford the private school, your next best thing is to move. And as parents, you have to make those choices, but you need to move and find somewhere to go and stay there. You can't be selfish and be like, well, my friends are here, my homegirls are here, and this, that, and the third, and my family, whatever. No, you got to do what's best for your kids, especially for the education or whatever environment they are in. If your kids have a chance, you got to get them up out that school system.
Lots of immigrants that they need to educate, and they're not paying enough attention to average kids. And I think Texas, by doing this, all it's saying is that you can come here, you can get a private education. And by the way, our public schools, up your game.
Yeah. Well, and school choice is sort of a way to move out without having to move out. If you're concerned about your school, but you don't have the means to leave a place, at least your kids can leave their school. Dagan does raise an interesting point. I wonder what you think about this. Do parents who want to move their kids out of public schools have a responsibility to their public schools to keep them there, or do lawmakers have a responsibility to keep them there?
Absolutely not.
Because that's sort of the other
Parents
side
have the
of that
responsibility
argument.
for the kids, and
Yes.
lawmakers have the
So
responsibility.
what do you say, Jack?
I think you make the choice as a parent.
You've built success. Now it's time to shape the future of business. The Doctor of Business Administration at UT.
And it's unfortunate that many parents feel their hands are tied and they can't make that choice. But Charlie, you make a great point here about New York City, for example, and that private school tuition that you mentioned, for example. If people leave now with the big, beautiful law and the SALT cap deduction going up and giving people opportunities in the suburbs to deduct more of their property taxes, if you can find a neighborhood that actually has a decent school, and some of the suburbs do still,
Well, they have good
or
schools in
they're
Westchester.
definitely better than here, or
Long
even
Island.
some of them in New Jersey too, you're giving people options. But part of this for me is looking at it from the standpoint of, what is the left trying to accomplish here? What is Randy Weingarten doing when she's deliberately almost sabotaging the school system? To me, it's this, people complain that it's so expensive to have a child, whether it's to educate them, feed them, clothe them, make sure you have childcare, all of these extra needs. And when the left talks about affordability, somehow they just kind of like sweep all of that under the rug. But that is real for people.
Have you ever seen
People are not having kids because of
I
it.
agree. And have you ever seen
And they don't care.
how much it costs to educate somebody like when they do per pupil education costs in New York City? It's like through the roof. It's
right.
higher than Catholic schools.
I think it's close to $30,000.
It's something absurd, and it's all because Randy Weingarten is an arm of the Democratic Party, and
well, I don't know too much about what's going on in New York. If y'all want to see this, you know what you can do. You can go to the link will be in the description box below. But yeah, like I was saying, this here is not for most of my people. I'm gonna tell you that I was blessed with the path that the Most High put me on. My parents, I was able to go to private school for a few years when I was young, before junior high. I think I went kindergarten, first, second, and fifth grade. Yeah, kindergarten, first, second, and fifth grade. I went to private school. The other grades, I went to public, and then junior high, I went to a magnet school, and then high school went to a magnet school, which, I mean, now it's like a regular little public school now if you look at it, but it's still a magnet school. So I was blessed. Sister too, same thing. She went to private school, I think her whole life, all the way up through high school, and then ended up going to college or what have you. But education wise, you know what I'm saying, we was blessed that we was able to get the education. My kids, they went to decent public schools, went to private school, charter schools. And so now they have either graduated college or actually both of them has graduated. Matter of fact, yeah, both of them have graduated. Just got one who's still going for another degree. And then my other one talking about she might be going back to get another degree too. But education wise, the path that my family's been on, it's been great. It's been wonderful. I couldn't ask for anything different. But everybody doesn't have those opportunities. Well, I'm gonna take that back. You have a chance to have opportunities if you know what's out there. Like when I talk about, like say my daughter going to the private school, I wouldn't have known anything about it if it wasn't for a friend of hers who was recruited to go there, and then she brought up my child's name, and so she was recruited to go to that school. Would have never happened if that, you know what I'm saying, if you didn't know somebody who knows somebody. That's just how the world works. But in this age now of information, how easy it is to get information, to find stuff out, the opportunities are out there for us to be able to at least look at situations like this. But even if everybody did this or tried to attempt to do this, still everybody's not going to get in. $10,000 is not going to help a family or a mother, or even hell, a family period. Parents who make anywhere from 20 to 30, maybe $50,000 as a family, and you got a couple of kids, 2, 3 kids in the household in this day and age, it's not going to help. So like you look at who's talking, what they look like, and how they're talking on this panel. These people got the money to send their kids to a damn $70,000 private school in New York. That's crazy. But in Texas, as I told y'all, it's anywhere from 10 to 30 something thousand. Again, but when you got families, single mothers, single parents, grandmothers, whoever, only making 30,000 a year, there's no way in the world they'll be able to do this. But your best bet is homeschooling, where you get a couple $1,000s. And they say schooling is not as hard, as people think it is. Just do the research and you can figure it out. The issue is, and the question is, as parents, grandparents, guardians of these children, what are you doing at home to make sure your child is getting educated? Not what's going on in the schoolhouse, but at home. They get work, because nowadays, hell, I don't even know if kids got, if they even got books nowadays, tangible books nowadays. Everything is on the freaking computer, which is the worst thing that ever happened to me, that I feel, to the education system. You need to make sure your kids got books at home, they're reading, that they're writing, hell, learning some kind of craft, like maybe piano, learn an instrument, playing in a sport, doing something extracurricular. That is what you as a parent need to make sure your child is doing in order to help develop their brain so they can be they can be the best students possible. Because even though they may not be able to get into private schools, and then this voucher program means nothing to us, they got to graduate high school, and it's still a possibility for them to go to a college and get a good degree so they can make good money, and and improve their lives, and give their kids a better chance than they had growing up. But it starts at home. No matter what the government does, no matter what the school does, it starts and ends at home. If you are not putting any kind of emphasis, if you're not pushing your children to learn and to be educated, none of this matters. And you definitely setting up your child for failure. But anyway, tell me what you think about this story. Leave your comments below, share it with the world. Let's have an intelligent conversation. You know how we do around here. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Those 4 things cost you maybe a couple of minutes out of your day, but it means the world to us here at this channel. With that being said, I leave you in peace and love, and I'll see you on the other side.